Alright, welcome back to the Recipe Analyst. Today I'll be making luscious apple pie from the Baking Bible. And to start, I have to cube up the butter into about 1/4 inch cubes. And I'll get that into the freezer to keep it as cold as possible while I actually put the dough together. And I'm gonna also mix together the dry ingredients. So that's all-purpose flour, some cake flour, followed by some salt and baking powder. Give that a quick mix in a bag, and then I put that in the freezer to chill for about 30 minutes. Next, I add the dry ingredients to the food processor, and I add in some cream cheese that I cut up into some smaller pieces. I go ahead and mix that until it appears to be like a course meal. Then I add the butter until the butter's broken up into about pea-sized pieces. Next, I add the heavy cream and the apple cider vinegar. I give that a mix until the butter's broken up more and the dough is a little bit moist. Then I split it into 2 portions to knead together until it holds its shape, and I can put it back into the bag, which kind of keeps the mess down and makes it a little bit easier than using a flour surface. So like I said, I have 2 different portions of this dough, and then I split it evenly, and then I wrap it up in plastic wrap to put in the refrigerator, and I refrigerate it overnight. The next day, I flour my work surface so I can get the bottom dough rolled out, and I start by beating it a little bit to just loosen it up. And that red thing on the left is a kind of a pot cover. It's a 12 inches, so I use it as a template to cut out the dough into a 12-inch circle once I have it rolled out. And while I'm rolling it out, I'm sure to keep flipping it, lifting it from the work surface to prevent it from sticking to the work surface. So I'm flipping it over, flouring both sides to make everything easy once I'm ready to get it into the pie plate. And I use some of the excess dough to patch up some of the tears in the dough before I use the rolling pin to transfer it onto the baking or the pie plate. So when I'm transferring it to the pie plate, I'm really gentle with it. I kind of just let it fall into the pie plate. I'm not stretching it, because stretching it will lead to some thin spots and you want it to be pretty even. So I'm just lifting it up and letting it fall kind of naturally into the pie plate. Then I cover it with some plastic wrap and put it in the refrigerator to rest while I work on the filling. I mix the sugar, brown sugar, cinnamon, nutmeg, and salt in a large bowl, and I set that to the side while I work on the apples. But before that, I squeeze some lemons, and that lemon juice is going to be tossed along with the apples once I peel them and chop them and get them all ready to go into the filling. So I start off by peeling the apples, and then I chop them in half. And once they're chopped, I go ahead and remove all the stems and the cores. I didn't have a core, so I just used a paring knife to get rid of all the seeds and the kind of hard center pieces of the apple. And I also got rid of the rest of the apple peels that I couldn't get with the peeler. Transfer the apples into a bowl. Then I use my mandolin to slice the apples into 1/4 inch slices, and those slices are transferred to a bowl as well. I add the tablespoon of lemon juice and toss the apples. I'm pretty sure this is just to reduce oxidation. Then I transfer those apples to the bowl with the sugar mixture, and this is going to help them macerate and release some of the juices. While the apples sit, I go ahead and work on the thickened apple juice / apple cider mixture, which is just apple juice and some cornstarch. I whisk it together until thoroughly combined, and then I get that over medium heat until it starts to boil. And you want to make sure that your whisking it pretty constantly. And once it becomes pretty thick, kind of like this, I transfer it to a bowl to cool. So I set that to the side, and then I put a colander in a large bowl and transfer the apples into the colander to separate the juices. I got about a half a cup of juices from the maceration, and I put that into a large measuring cup along with some butter, and I microwave it for about 6 minutes, and that's gonna create a kind of a caramelized syrup. While that's going, I go ahead and put the apples back into a large bowl and add some cornstarch and mix it until the cornstarch is no longer visible on the apples or in the bowl. And once the syrup is done, it'll look like this. I pour it over the apples and I start to mix them in. The syrup will harden pretty quickly once it touches the cooler apples, but you don't have to worry about that too much. Then I add in the thickened apple juice and mix that in, and then I'll be ready to fill the pie crust. So I take the pie crust out of the refrigerator from resting, and I start to spoon in the apples. You can probably kind of just pour it in a little bit quicker than what I'm doing, and you can see some of that hardened syrup at the bottom, which I just kind of scraped at and added before I put the top crust on. And I brush the crust with some water to help the top crust stick to it. And I roll out the top dough just like the bottom dough, put it on top of the pie and put 5 slits in it. I put that in the refrigerator to rest for about 30 minutes. And I put some aluminum foil covers around the crust just to protect it from getting too dark while I bake it. Now the pie is ready to go in the oven. It's 20 minutes, and then I give it a turn. Then I let it go for about 40 minutes for a total of an hour before I took it out. At this point, the apples are tender and there's some bubbling that you can see through the slits. So what did I think of this apple pie? Honestly, I think it was a little bit disappointing. While the filling tasted pretty good, letting the apples shine for the most part, the filling didn't have much flavor other than slightly sweetened apples. The spices didn't really come through, and the crust was pretty bland. It wasn't very buttery or flavorful at all. So I just got the impression that this pie was missing something. At the end of the day, I decided to give it a 6 out of 10. It took a considerable amount of time, so I wouldn't really recommend you spending the time on this recipe. Anyway, thanks for watching, and if you have any recommendations for recipes you want me to try, let me know. Thanks again.